This time I'd like to call to order the October 7th, 2014 City Council meeting for the City of Yukon, Oklahoma. If you would rise with me for the invocation by our City Manager, Grayson Bottom, and our flag salute.
Our divine, most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings of it. Would ask that you lead, guide, and direct us through this night and the coming day. We'd ask that you bless us with courage and wisdom. Lead us through this night. Bless this community and bless all of America. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Smith.
Here.
McCarron. Here. Alberts. Here. Russell. Here. Yonda.
Here.
This portion of our agenda is for presentations and proclamations.
None this evening.
We have none this evening. Moving on to our visitor section, we have a gentleman here, Mr. Jay Adams, Mayor of Mustang, that would like to address the council.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Jay Adams. I am the mayor for the city of Mustang. I'm actually missing my council meeting tonight because it was very important for me to come and speak to each one of you on some issues coming up for us. You know, through the years, both of our communities have enjoyed our rivalries between our high schools and our sports and our communities, but more and more, we actually have a lot more in common than we do opposing each other. You know, those commonalities consist of some of the fastest growing cities in this state. We're part of one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. We have communities that young families want to move to and raise their kids in because we've got great schools and we've got a great town. But one of the things that we do share also is we share some water issues, that we're trying to deal with on a regular basis. One of those things that we're looking at, we have well fields in the west edge of Garver, Wellington, just like you guys do. We both share the problems that on that west edge of the Garver, Wellington, we're experiencing a lot of arsenic issues, in that area. And because of all that, just like Yukon, Mustang's having to shut down, a few of our water wells as well, and we're having to buy more and more water, from the city of Oklahoma City. Long-term water solutions is a situation that is paramount for both of our communities, something that we share another common interest in. Pretty soon, y'all are going to be looking at a resolution to move forward with CALRA on phase 2 of a project. And in next week, I'm going to be proposing that to my council as well. Solving a long-term water solution is not something that's easily done by individual communities. Partnering together and working together is the way that we can solve a lot of these issues. One of the things that my daytime job, just like everybody up here pretty much has a daytime job, but my daytime job is I'm the tribal coordinator for the Department of Transportation. And I, in effect, put together partnerships between the tribes and ODOT on transportation projects where we share the cost and we share, the common needs of that project. And I tell the tribes on numerous times that we're stronger together and we accomplish more together than we do separately. And in reality, that's what we're talking about here as well. Mustang and Yukon together is stronger and better, and we can accomplish more than we can if we try to do this thing separately. I'm hoping that in the next week when I present this resolution to my council, that I can say that Yukon is going to be our partners in this, because I very much want Mustang to be y'all's partners in this as well. Together, I think we can come up with a viable long-term solution for the water for our communities and for our families. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
We have no other sign-ins for visitors to speak before the council this evening. So we will recess as Yukon City Council, reconvene as the Yukon Municipal Authority. The YMA consent docket is item 1A. This item is placed on the agenda so the Yukon Municipal Authority, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine items that wish to be approved by one motion. If an item does not meet with the approval of all authority members, that item will be heard in regular order. The city manager recommends a motion to approve A, the minutes of the regular meeting of September 2, 2014. B, the minutes of the regular meeting that should read special meeting, shouldn't it?
No,
No?
the regular meeting.
Okay, regular meeting September 16, 2014. And C, payment of material claims in the amount of $577,546.38. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, call the roll, please.
McCarron? Yes. Smith?
Yes.
Yonda?
Yes.
Alberts? Yes. Russell?
Yes.
This time we'll adjourn as the YMA and reconvene as the Yukon City Council. Item 1 is the consent docket. This item is placed on the agenda so the City Council, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine items they wish to be approved by one motion. If an item does not meet with the approval of all council members, that item will be heard in regular order. The city manager recommends a motion that will approve A, the minutes of the regular meeting of September 16, 2014, B, the minutes of the special meeting of September 26, 2014, C, payment of material claims in the amount of $706,836.07, D, designating the items on the attached list from the Technology Department as surplus and authorizing their sale, donation, or trade, E, denial of claim number 139270-TW from Casey Griffin as recommended by the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group. Item F is setting the date for the next regular council meeting for October 21st, 2014, 7 p.m. in the council chambers of the Centennial Building on 12 South 5th Street. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Do we have any discussion? Having none, call the roll, please.
Russell?
Yes.
Yonda?
Yes.
McCarron? Yes. Smith?
Yes.
Alberts? Yes.
Item 2 is reports of boards, commissions, and city officials.
This evening, Mayor, we have Larry Taylor, who is the chairman of the Yukon Planning Commission. Larry?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, glad to be here with you today. The Planning Commission has been very busy this past year. We've had a lot of turnover. Well, two-fifths of our body turned over. It's composed of right now with Erling Smeisterla, a former mayor and city council member, myself. Bill Baker replaced Bob Doggett, who moved out of the city of Yukon. He moved up northwest off of Wilshire. Mr. Robert Davis has been on for the last couple of years, ever since Mr. McCarron was elected. And Ed Hatley, who replaced Terry Beaver, who resigned recently. So Mr. Baker has attended one meeting. I think Mr. Hatley's made 2 or 3. So we've had a little bit of changeover. This year, the Planning Commission, some of the items that we handled this year for you and recommended to you were 10 curb cuts, 3 preliminary plats, 5 plan unit developments, 4 final plats, 5 lot splits, and 6 rezonings. And I think most of everything that we recommended to you, either to pass or deny, you also voted that same way with us. And we hope that we're doing how you want the city to be run. We try to look through anything that comes before us and really dig down and get into the meat of the situation so that we can send it to you where you can handle it very quickly and move on. Some of the things that the Planning Commission does, it is a recommendation body for the most part. As I said, we do lot splits, we do rezoning. We have the power to prepare and recommend an adoption of a zoning plan, restriction of the height, number of stories, size of buildings and other structure, percentage of the lot that may be occupied, size of yards, courts and open spaces, density of the population, and so forth and so on. We meet on a basis of once a month normally when we have a meeting. We had 1 month this year that we did not have a meeting. We don't meet if we don't have any agenda, but the way Yukon is growing, we have quite a few items. I had one problem this past year of getting Legacy Lakes rezoned, and we finally got that done after 3 meetings, and he is well on his way now of pursuing the development of Legacy Lakes. We've got the new Walmart coming in, and we're looking forward to working on our new area south of the I-40 and off of Frisco Road. Any of y'all have any questions about the duties or responsibilities of the Planning Commission? Well, on another note, on what Mr. Mayor here of Mustang spoke about, I started the Water Committee in 1995 when I was mayor, and we're still plugging away at it these many years later. So whatever y'all can do to, and we have, Yukon has been the leader of it the whole time. I certainly hope that we continue to do that to get a water supply for Yukon. If nothing else, Mr. Mayor, that's my report, unless you have something else.
No, I'd like to commend the Planning Commission for their due diligence and the quality recommendations, whether it be positive or negative, that do come before the council.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Item 3 is to consider approving an expenditure of funds in the amount not to exceed $38,880 to purchase 2 city cars, a 15-passenger electric shuttle that will roll down with roll-down size to be paid from the Parks and Administration Capital Improvement Fund as requested by the Parks and Recreation Director.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a
Second.
second? Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Do we have any discussion? Having no discussion, call the roll, please.
Yonda,
Yes.
Alberts. Yes. Smith,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
McCarron.
Yes.
Item 4 is to consider approving a credit card present CP merchant agreement with Sage Payment Solutions for a term of 3 years for the purpose of accepting credit debit card payments for city court services as requested by the technology director. Is there a motion?
So moved.
How about a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
I guess I'd like to know a little bit more about them. Is there, Grayson, is there?
Well, we need to
Exactly.
keep, first of all, we need, this first one that you're approving is for the court system.
Right.
Those revenues need to be kept separate from general city revenues, which you will consider in the next
Items.
item. So that's why we have 2 separate agreements with the same company.
Okay, so
I might-
basically we're setting up a way of them paying
Yes.
fines
Yes.
and stuff.
And if you see the number of outstanding warrants that,
We
as you
look-
can
we look
see
at on the
on
TV
the
every week.
city channel, yes, it's gonna, I think, not eliminate, but certainly dip into those uncollected funds by making it easier for people to pay, should this be approved. Do we have any further discussion? Having none, call the roll, please.
Russell,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Alberts. Yes. McCarron,
Yes.
Yonda.
Yes.
Item 4A is to consider approving a credit card not present CNP merchant agreement with Sage Payment Solutions for a term of 3 years for the purpose of accepting credit debit card payments for city court services as requested by the technology director.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Having no discussion, call the roll, please.
Alberts. Yes. McCarron,
Yes.
Yonda,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Item 5 is to consider approving a conditional use permit for Steve Woody, ERS Telecom Properties, for a 170-foot monopole cell tower to provide Verizon Wireless and additional carriers and antenna support structure located west of West Cali Avenue and north of 11th Street in Yukon as recommended by the Planning Commission. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
I think that do you have any,
Yeah, actually, we have,
hear from ERS and?
yes, thank you,
Okay,
Vice Mayor.
sorry.
Joe Horn is here to speak on this agenda item. If you'd like to come forward and address the council, state your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Joe Horn. My address is 102 South Fifth. I would like to speak against the tower. I don't feel like the city of Yukon actually needs this tower. We don't have a cell phone ordinance right now, and because of that, in my opinion, there's a chance that if we approve all these requests as submitted, there's going to be a proliferation of cell phone towers dotting our skyline. There are existing verticalities that could be used, and I would request that Verizon be required to prove that by their RF engineers that they actually need that tower in that location, and that they cannot use existing verticalities. There are at least 3 within 5 blocks of the proposed location. So I submit to you, we don't need it. It's a 170-foot tower at Garth Brooks and Main Street. It's ugly, and it's not necessary. They can use something else that's already there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. This, Mr. Horn's request to address the council on this agenda item is the only request that I've received. I'm going to assume then that we have no one from ERS that had.
Steve Woody, 497 Ridgepoint Drive, Forney, Texas. And, you know, we submitted the application several months ago. We submitted everything that the city required of us. The Planning Commission heard it and did approve it unanimously. The facility is going to be set back a long ways from property lines. It's going to be on a heavily wooded lot. As far as proliferation, you know, the cell phones have been in existence for 20 years, so you haven't had a proliferation yet. It's very exacting where these facilities need to be to link up with existing structures. 5 blocks away doesn't work. They need to be in very specific places, or they're kind of a waste of time and a waste of money. You have a lot of overlapping. RF engineers did design this. Verizon, nor does ERS want to come into a community and put up structures that are not needed. Verizon is already on a water tank with the city. So if there was something there that would work, they would certainly use it. It costs a lot more money and a lot more time to develop something like this. And if you have any questions.
Is this something you're in partnership with Verizon on?
Yes.
So
Yes.
Verizon is one of the investors, or?
Well, Verizon is the cell phone carrier, and they look to tower developers at certain points, certain times in different areas to put up a structure that they then in turn lease the property from us, or lease the space on the tower. And we
Right,
have
so
many-
their agreement with you is to lease space on the tower, not necessarily to have ownership or anything that would go past the lease period that they sign with you. Is that correct?
Correct. And we in turn have a lease with the property owner. And I believe your city has an ordinance that states if it's not in use for a certain amount of time, maybe a year I think it is, then it'd be taken down. And that's, you know, we certainly comply with that. And we've built many of these structures around the Midwest and have Verizon on many of our towers.
Just one more question for me. Can you explain to me why it first went or was intended to go before the Board of Adjustments here in the city of Yukon and then was
That's what
passed
I was-
on to the Planning Commission?
That's what I was told to do.
By
The administration, and the attorneys, I guess, told them that. I don't know. I think they thought there was a height variance that was needed, but then in turn, I guess they decided that wasn't needed after we went to the BOA. So I just did what I was told and supplied the applications and the checks and showed up. So I don't really understand. I don't know why the decisions were made.
if you don't mind, we'll have our development director step up and maybe answer those questions.
I was gone the day that he made application. I was actually gone for a week at that time. Kathy did not know how we were doing the cell phone provider towers. We basically have, and I've confirmed this, we basically have only done planning commission, put conditions upon those towers. They review it, they review the location, they review the compound around it. We make recommendations to the council from that commission or committee with those recommendations. And if you'll notice, there's recommendations that's been attached to this. But it was an accident, the Board of Adjustments,
I see.
because everyone that was done before was only done by conditional use permit through the Planning Commission, City Council.
Is 170 feet a standard height for
gonna-
these
yeah.
cell towers? I mean, that's awful. That's getting up there in the air.
Typically 195 feet, but it depends. You know, it depends on the location, it depends on topography of the land, it depends on how much you're trying to cover. Typically, 150 to 195 feet would be the majority of towers that are built around the country now. Used to, it's probably 200 to 250. And this would not require light, there's no guide wires or anything. It's all contained inside the 60 by 60 compound.
Mitch, do we have a restriction or a limit on height?
The way that have been done in the past, no, there is not a restriction. They do have to comply with FFA requirements, FAA, sorry, requirements, as well as any other requirements that we may have on them.
Okay, thank you.
Is this strictly for one company, Verizon, or will you lease out to other companies instead of doing multiple ones? This will work for whoever, whatever.
I think he's got it designed for up to 4 providers.
If you have 3 more providers, such as what Verizon's going to put on there, you might get 5 or 6. But if they put what Verizon put on there, it would hold 3 more.
Are there any other candidates in that process right now?
No. Typically, right now, AT&T's on a kind of a national hold. AT&T's kind of on a national hold right now. I do believe AT&T would be interested. I can't say that for sure. T-Mobile and Sprint are kind of in the same boat. They're doing upgrades around the country to their existing facilities, and Verizon is really the one doing the most expansion right now. So,
Well, Verizon, do they have for their towers that they lease space on, do they have a height requirement for them to consider leasing space from?
It's all specific. Every one is different. And at this location, that is the height they need. So they may need 250 out in the county, and then maybe somewhere else in a community, they may only need 120. So it typically goes from space to space and what they need to cover in that area.
I have a couple questions.
Please.
This is the property that's right there, catty corner from Love's?
Yes,
All the way to the back, next to
by the tracks.
Okay, and who owns that property?
It's owned by a trust, the June W. Taylor Trust.
Okay, and I mean, are we at liberty to ask the terms of the agreement between you and them?
It's a 50-year lease.
Okay, and what are they gonna be paid for that?
Well, I don't know if that's something I want to put publicly. I don't think that's really, and that's a business thing between us and them, and I don't have the right to speak for them here. I don't think that's something that publicly I need to say.
Do you have a way out of that lease if Verizon pulls off your tower, for example?
Absolutely.
And you've run through the time lapse that the city requires?
Yes, I can take that out with notification to them, and then, and the stipulation is that I take everything out. If I cancel the lease, I take the tower down and take the facility with me.
Yeah, if you cancel the lease.
If we cancel the lease, if Verizon cancels the lease with me, I'm going to cancel the lease with them, correct.
Okay.
What about also, as far as our Main Street, I know we've started to work on Main Street. Is there a tower ordinance? We don't have a tower ordinance, do we? So how many towers do we have in town now? That's
Yeah.
again, sorry.
In our city limits, we have 3 towers that I'm aware of off the top of my head. that are currently being used for cell phone providers. Now we have 3 water towers as well that is serving as localities for providers as well. So we have a total of 6 that I can think of off the top of my head.
I mean, did staff, I mean, did you talk with the I mean, as far as our development of Main Street, I mean, the aesthetic value, I mean, I guess the thing that bothers me too is 170 feet. Tell me something how tall is the mill? I mean, what in Yukon is 170 feet tall? How can I tell?
I think the one that's in the Cornwell Park there, right off Cornwell, I think that's about what that is. That tower there is about 170. I'm not for sure off the top of my head, but it's around that if I remember right.
Is there any way to determine on some of the existing towers whether there would be suitable space? I know, I apologize because I know you don't want to hear this, but it seems like if we have towers in place of approximately the height that we're talking about building anyway, that there might not be space available on one of those towers?
What we do is when we have somebody coming in and doing a survey, we always send them to those localities. They're the one that would determine if that locality will work for them. Height usually becomes a problem when talking to some of them, as well as locality. You know, they can provide you with a drawing that basically shows you the overlap and what they're looking for. I do know Verizon is having issues in the area.
Is that something you might have with you that could be presented to the council?
RF propagation.
The coverage maps, yeah, that he's referring to?
Yes.
You have those with you?
I have them in my car. I have no problem going out and get them. The towers were all looked at, and they are miles away from where we used to be. And as far as comparison to the grain elevator, you know, we're talking about maybe a 2.5-foot diameter pole compared to a grain elevator. So it will be high, and we're about 750 foot off of Main Street. And behind us is a lot of floodplain property. To the north of us is railroad. We're 350 foot off of 11th Street, and we meet all the requirements that were put upon us at this time that are in your ordinance.
And with all due respect, I mean, that's wonderful. And I don't think that it's not what you haven't done. I'm worried about the future of that piece of property and what it might be used for. So Mitchell, I mean, what type of easement, how far away are we gonna have to build? How many acres are there? I mean, how's the 170-foot pole gonna affect that? You know, the one over in the park, everything's already there. This is a piece of potentially commercial property. I don't know what it's zoned now.
I cannot speak to the design of the poles. They're supposedly designed to fall within themselves. I can tell you in the Oklahoma City area, they build very close to some of these structures, within 40, 50 feet. If you'll start looking as you go I-40 east and start looking around, they start popping out when you're looking for them. It kind of surprised me the other day when we started talking about them. I talked to somebody with Oklahoma City.
So then you're not bothered by all about what that corner might ultimately be used for 5 years from now, or as it's developed, the installation of this tower isn't going to have any effect on that.
Well, that's why we sent you the recommendation from the staff as well as the planning commission. Those are our recommendations.
Well, that says a
That's
gravel road and that it's set back a certain from the street. So that's to take care of what's there now, which are a bunch of trees.
There is a requirement in there if the land is developed that they have to provide some kind of screening that's approved by staff. So the lower part would be screened when it's
screen,
developed.
that's a fence, I guess is what
It could be a screening of a fence or a living fence or a combination of that, but it's approved by staff if I remember right.
I mean,
There's 4 comments in there.
But I guess what I'm worried about is if it falls over 170 feet, I mean, are we going to allow a building to be built within 170 feet of it?
Well, like I said, they claim they fall on themselves, but we do require a structural plan on that, and our city engineer typically looks at that. He does not review it completely, but he sees to make sure that they do have a state license to do that, and as well look to see if they are doing the calculations like he thinks they should be. If he does not believe they're doing it, then he will require them to get a second party to review that as well.
Have you met with the landowners? Do you have any idea what their intention is to do with that property?
No, I've not met with the landowners. In the past, they've tried to do something with it, and I don't know what's going on with it. It's the same individuals that we bought the property to the north from.
Do we need a cell tower ordinance?
That's something that we refer to the city manager on that. It's become an issue. You can't really zone them out, is my understanding, because there's some federal laws that prohibit that. You can require some requirements to that, such as the gravel drive, making sure there's access, such as addressing, such as site screening. Most of them are willing to do that.
So we zoned out oil wells, and you can't zone out a cell tower.
We all have one, unfortunately. That's part of life. I am not the one that makes that decision, but I've been told by federal law you can't really zone them out. Requirements you can place on them, yes.
Okay.
And
I'd
I'm,
like to speak to the safety real quick, if you don't mind.
Please.
He was talking about collapsibility of the tower, and this structure is designed differently. A self-supporting tower, they collapse on themselves. Guide towers, they can collapse. A monopole structure is actually designed in the way that it's the shape of it. It's not really cylinder. It's got little flat sides around. It's like about 8 or 9 sides, 10 sides. I can't tell you exactly. But the wind loading actually decreases. It'll bend and give, and the wind loading will decrease. And these are engineered to such stringent capabilities that, there's nothing in that area that's going to be standing if something comes through and blows this tower down. They're engineered to withstand tornadoes. They're engineered. I can remember in '98 when I actually was going to Iowa to start working in the telecommunications industry. It was right after a big tornado that came through. I lived in Duncan. I grew up in Duncan, and I came through, and I remember looking to get on an overpass in Oklahoma City somewhere, and everything was leveled, but there was one pole sticking up, and I remember thinking, oh, that's a cell phone tower. I mean, they really are engineered to such great lengths now that finding a monopole that's fallen over because of wind-related issues, I don't think you can in the United States. Now, there are some older ones that were engineered differently 20 years ago that have had problems I know of, and that was engineered, and that was some structural design flaws. But now, I don't think you're going to find anything that's fallen. And so most communities that you go into, where I live in the Dallas area, and like I said, I work a lot in Oklahoma City and Houston and Dallas, and you cannot go into any community and not find these monopoles. And typically, they're around other structures. You see them everywhere, up and down interstates. You go into commercial areas, residential areas. I've got many pictures of these, sitting right next to homes, sitting right next to malls. And so it's really kind of I don't want to say a necessary evil, but it's kind of like the plumbing that makes your water work. This is the plumbing that makes your cell phone work. And you really can't have cell phones and good coverage. We all have TVs on our phone now, and the reason we can do that is because we've had to add towers around the country and facilities. And again, if there was a structure sitting out there with the height that we could use, we would do that. But unfortunately, there isn't. So.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Bottom.
We need the tower.
Why?
First of all, coverage, gaps in our service. We talked about one of the towers, our water towers, which Verizon, in fact, just vacated for the very reason he's talking about needing a tower. Also, when we have gaps in service, we have gaps in communication. Whether we have Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, whatever it is, we have gaps in our service.
Does the city use Verizon?
We use Verizon for our cell phone service. Yes, we do. My wife happens to use AT&T. But we have gaps in our service. So, yes, we need the tower.
What about the fact that we're going out, set it?
Sir, the fact of the matter is, you won't notice the tower 2 months from now. It is my view, because of where it is located, that it will not be in line sight. It's also in an area that has not been able to be developed, even with offers for that development. And later, it will be more, rather than commercial development, it will be for more of a light industrial type development, if developed at all.
So has the city talked with the people that own that piece of property about this?
I have not. Mitch has not. The company has made a deal with
Okay.
people.
I mean, my feeling is I'd like to see it tabled for us to approach them and see about cleaning that piece of property up and have the tower built. That's why I keep asking is if this tower's gonna be built, that's gonna be used, they have a, did you say a 50-year lease, sir? Yes, sir. A 50-year lease on a piece of property. I mean, if we're gonna start to use that piece of property, it's gonna benefit the community. I think aesthetically that I would like to see it start now to benefit the community if that's gonna happen. So if, I would like to see who made the motion?
Mr. McCarron.
I mean, I'd like to see it tabled, and is that possible?
If we table it for one meeting. If we postpone it until you've been satisfied by doing the due diligence to have your questions answered, that may or may not happen in the next 2 weeks. So if we're not gonna take action on it tonight, approving or disproving, I might recommend that you consider, Mr. McCarron, consider changing his motion to postponing this agenda item.
I mean, I don't know, can we have this discussion? Can we have this? I mean, that's where I'm coming from. If it's appropriate to put it here, and we're gonna develop that piece of property, they're gonna benefit from that, then let's talk with who owns the piece of property. It's been sitting there. At one time, I think when I was a lot younger, there was a white house. All that stuff is fallen down and it's all dilapidated. I mean, there's a 50-year lease, there's a tower. Then let's take that opportunity to work with the landowner, help them develop the piece of property they'd like it to be the way, and clean it up. I mean, that's,
Mr. McCarron, is that something you would consider?
I think he's,
Actually,
Could I
at this
ask a
point,
question?
oh, okay, go ahead.
I mean,
one more question, Mr.
all
Woody,
right.
go ahead.
When you say clean it up, what are we talking? I'm just curious. I mean, maybe
have you seen it?
I have absolutely seen it. Do you mean cut down all the trees, or do you talking?
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be, I mean, at least make it look nice. I mean, it's looked like that. I can't.
It would
tell
also
how-
probably, though, make that tower more visible until that land is developed.
Well, it's 170 feet tall. It looks like a big pencil. You
But
tell me,
if you're
Grayson
back
says I
on
won't
Main
notice it
Street
tomorrow.
and you look
so-
over there and you've
Then
got
let's clean it
50-foot
up.
trees, you only see the top of it. So by cleaning, I mean, how many trees do you want
Sir,
taken
those
out?
trees are going to come down sooner or later when they
I'm just
build
saying,
something there.
I might take the trees down. I might agree to do it right now. If you say how many, I mean, it's all wooded. There's some that are really big.
I have a picture on my wall in my office of that very corner taken in 1954. That White House was in that picture. Not one tree stood around that house. If you'll come by my office, I'll have you look at that picture. And if you, less the house, can make that property tonight, you can commit to make that property look that way.
Well,
That's,
I mean, if there's some huge 3-foot tree that would look nice, even if the property were developed, that's fine. But there's a whole bunch of trees that are about as big around as, I don't know, baseball.
Scrub trees.
but
Yeah, they're
We're
just,
kind of getting outside of the scope of what the
Right.
agenda item is at this juncture. So we need to go back to the postpone it.
Yeah, if
if
we-
that's
well,
what
I
we're
have to
gonna-
ask. I think
Excuse
I have.
me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Apologize.
Well, don't
I
talk
apologize.
over me.
I said I apologize.
I was in the middle.
I'm
of
sorry.
Distracting my client.
I apologize.
All right. We need to get back to the motion to postpone, or whatever the motion's gonna be. Stay away from cleaning up the property tonight. And if he wants to get with staff, he can do that.
and we could,
so we could,
at some point, let's hypothetically say this gets postponed, when it's brought back to the council as an agenda item, changes such as cleaning the property, a certain number of trees, that could be actually added to the agenda.
That could be one of the conditions, or some of the
Conditions added to the
conditions
permit.
to the permit. That they're
Okay.
seeking an annual permit with conditions. The staff and the planning commission has recommended some conditions, but this body may also impose other conditions. And so that's what we're talking about, are some of the other conditions that might be imposed
Okay.
upon the permit.
so let me,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ms.
if
Dowd.
we table it, that brings it back in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks seems to be enough time to have this conversation that started that you thought was outside. If we come back in 2 weeks at that time, if we decide not to take an action, then we can table it indefinitely?
You can
Or what's
table it again, or you can postpone it indefinitely, or It's whatever you want to do.
I would ask that Mr. McCarron consider tabling it until the next meeting, amend the motion,
So do you
Mr.
wanna-
Mayor.
You want to table or just table?
Well,
Yeah, just
Here's
bring
the-
it back the next.
I'm wondering, if we table it and come back in 2 weeks' time, that's fine and good. If we postpone it until such time as we know that all these questions have been answered, it'll only have to come before us one more time.
I understand that, but I think that also time may be of the essence. I mean, he's a businessman, so I think that's
It's
important.
got 50 years.
I think Mr. Bottom understands what we, and I mean, let me ask Mr. Bottom, can I ask him if he feels comfortable working in the next 2 weeks?
Oh, absolutely.
That's why I thought maybe, Ken, we could do that, and if it can't
Okay.
be worked out, then we'll do something different in 2 weeks.
Okay,
Is that-
Mr. McCarron,
Mayor,
or-
with all due
Well,
I'm sorry.
I'm getting ready to amend here, but I also want to make sure that, is it going to be the city talking to the landowner, or is it going to be Mr. Woody?
I think staff will
Your
talk to
report.
Mr. Bottom
Or
who-
that's a
It's going to
group
be Mitchell
therapy?
Ford.
Okay,
Okay, and they can work that out then?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then I will amend the approval to include that we are going to table this item for until the next meeting.
So your motion has been amended to table this agenda item
Item
at this
until-
time.
Right.
Do
until
we have
the
a
next-
second?
second.
Do we have any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Smith,
Yes?
McCarron,
Yes,
Alberts.
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Yonda.
Yes.
Item 6 is to consider approving a request for acceptance of approving the off-site utility easement from Crafton Toll to serve Frisco Ridge Phase 2, a tract of land situated within a portion of Government Lot 2 and east half of the northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 12 North, Range 5 West of the Indian Meridian in Yukon, Canadian County, Oklahoma, as recommended by the Planning Director.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Do we have any discussion? Having none, call the roll, please.
Yonda,
Yes.
Yes.
Alberts,
Yes.
McCarron,
yes,
Russell,
Yes.
Item 6A is consider approving a request for acceptance of approving the off-site utility easement from Crafton Toll to serve the Frisco Ridge Phase 2, a tract of land situated within the portion of Government Lot 2 and east half of the northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 12 North, Range 5 West of the Indian Meridian in Yukon, Canadian County, Oklahoma, as recommended by the Planning Director. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Having no discussion, call the roll, please.
Russell,
Yes.
McCarron,
true,
Smith,
Yes.
Yonda,
Yes.
Alberts.
Yes.
Item 6B, consider approving a request for acceptance of approving the off-site utility easement from Crafton Toll to serve Frisco Ridge Phase 2, a tract of land situated within a portion of the Government Lot 2 at the east half of the northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 12 North, Range 5 West of the Indian Meridian in Yukon, Canadian County, Oklahoma, as recommended by the Planning Director.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. I'm sorry, was that?
second,
Thank you, sir. Do we have any discussion? Having no discussion, call the roll, please.
Yonda,
Yes.
McCarron,
yes,
Russell,
Yes.
Alberts.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes. Item 7 is the city manager's report. These are information items only.
First up, Czech Festival. I have told staff all week so far, and I told those at the festival on Saturday that the city of Yukon ordered up the weather this year. Last year, the Chamber of Commerce ordered up the weather, and but it was an absolutely gorgeous day. The crowds were really vibrant. I think most everybody sold out of everything they had to sell. And it was a great parade, lots of energy, wonderful day. My only regret about the day was that I didn't get back downtown in time to get some of the roasted corn, which I really like. Also, as always, our Parks and Recreation Department is very active. We're back on board. I would like to inform you and the public about a couple of events coming up very soon. Friday, October the 17th, Yukon Citizen Tree Giveaway. It'll be held at City Park at the football field there from 5:30 until they're all gone, which won't take very long. We only have 100 trees. For those that show up, it'll be 1 tree per household. They are being provided by the Tree Bank Foundation as well as Apache Oil Foundation. On Friday, also October the 17th, that evening, we'll have an outdoor movie at the Jackie Cooper Gym. We plan to have it behind the gym outside with our outdoor projection equipment and screen. It's free for everybody. It starts at 8:30. The name of the movie is Monsters University. There will be concession stands for everybody. Also, in preparation for Halloween, on Saturday, October the 25th, at the Yukon Community Center is Spooksville. 2 p.m. dogs and kid costume contest. 3 to 6 is a carnival and a haunted house. It's $3 a person for everybody that shows up. Monday, the 27th of October, it's the Mummy and Son Masquerade, which will be at the Jackie Cooper Gym. It also includes a carnival, a costume contest, music, and a mummy rap for that evening. $3 in advance, $4 the day of the event. And on Tuesday, October the 28th, is the Spooky Senior Social at the Dale Robertson Center from 5:30 to 7:30. Music, costumes, snacks, and more, $3 per person. Hope that each of you can tell your constituents about that and be in attendance yourself. With that, I'll wrap up my report. Stand ready for your questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the council for our city manager? Having no questions, we will move on to item 8, new business. No new business this evening. Item 9 is council discussion. Mr. McCarron?
Well, I certainly thank the mayor for Mustang to come down and see us. We appreciate you spending your time, and, you know, I think obviously cooperation in the future on water is gonna be not only with our neighbors to the south, but certainly and probably in all directions before this is all over. You know, I think it's gonna be more than a minor issue. I also want to thank Larry, although I think he's already left for this evening, for coming and speaking. And I also want to, we received an update on our public works improvements tonight, so I want to thank Arnold for that. He's been very diligent in making sure that we get that kind of information. I also want to extend to everyone my thoughts on the passing of probably one of the greatest folks that we've ever had in Yukon, and that was Robert Swiniger. He passed away, and his funeral was here just Monday, and I really will miss him a lot. He is one of our true American heroes. He was overseas, he was in Guam, and his passing will be greatly missed. There's not an organization in this town that I'm aware of that he has not served at one time or another. So with that, Mayor, I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Russell?
Well, I would also like to thank the Mustang mayor, because the water is definitely, without a doubt, the biggest issue we're facing. You know, we can do all the revitalization you can name up, but if we don't have water to supply our cities, we're out of luck. So it's definitely what we need to focus on. Just thanks for everybody coming tonight.
Ms. Yonda?
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of those that contributed to the success of Check Day once again. Thank you.
Mr. Alberts?
Mayor Adams, I agree. Last time I was out with you at the Capitol, KTOK came up and they wanted to talk to me, and they said, what's the most pressing issue facing your community? And I started talking to them about water. The reporters' eyes rolled back in their head and they walked off. Needless to say, I didn't make it on the radio that night, but I wholeheartedly agree. I haven't been at it as long as Mr. Taylor. But yes, we've been to meetings in Piedmont, down to Chickasha for a long time. And if that's not the most critical issue facing the community, we just don't have our pulse on the community. So thank you for coming, and sounds like you have our support. I think that you do, and we're look forward to working with you. Like Donna, thank you to the city employees and all the volunteers that make Check Day so successful, but also to the participants. I was involved with the 4-H float and the basketball float. So you've got to get up there and line up about 8:30 and take all those kids and build a float, and they're standing around taking pictures and everything, and then for about 2 hours it takes for them to make it to the middle part of Main Street up there. So thank you not only to all the people who make it successful, but without the participants it wouldn't be so wonderful. Thank you. And then I want to say thank you for making it smell nice, and the remodel in here, whoever's been working on that, it hadn't gone unnoticed. I do wonder while I sit here tonight, why do they keep putting carpet on the wall? But other than that, I think it looks nice, but I know that's silly. Dana, don't laugh. I just wondered why. But it does. It looks nice. You've done a great job. Thank you very much for making our chambers look a lot better. And I wanted to say, like Mike, God bless Bob Schwaniger.
Thank you. And thank you, Jay, for being here this evening. And just to flip the coin on the water situation, there's no question that it is a very serious issue, but we can't forget what we can do in the meantime until a solution is presented itself. Conservation is something that we all need to keep on our mind on a daily basis. I mean, there are rain barrels available, and our use at home, if we're just thoughtful about how we use such a precious resource, I think it'll go a long way to buying us a little bit more time. With that, we stand adjourned.